So you had a great conversation with a new buyer prospect that you plan on working with, but it's gonna be out in the future. How are you gonna follow up and what are you gonna do between now and then? What's happening? I'm JC Agajanian, broker associate with the Whistle Realty Group, bringing you another recap from the Monday Morning Mastermind put on by the Fast Forward Network as we do every week. We always dig into juicy topics pertaining to production in helping each other do better so that we can skip the learning process and get straight to making some money. So today we had a couple great topics. The first one is surrounding long-term buyer follow-up, really how to do it and how to do it well. And the other one surrounds a Google Local Services ad, pretty similar to Google My Business, and kind of the pros and cons and maybe best case uses for that service as well. Let's get straight into it. Long-term buyer follow-up can be tricky because you don't want to be annoying and you don't want to wait too long and lose out. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you. It's a delicate balance. Years ago when I first started coaching, I've had 2 or 3 different coaches since then. One of the first lessons I learned was whatever period of time this person tells you that it's going to be before they're ready to buy a home, you cut that in half and don't call any later than that. In some cases, maybe cut it in a third or even a quarter. You want to make sure that if you're going to err on the side of calling too early or too late, obviously you want it to be too early so that you're staying in front of that person, because people will forget, even if you had a meaningful conversation, it was just one talk 3, 5, 7 months ago, and there's probably 10 realtors that they've spoken to since then, right? So you got to be sensitive to who you're talking to and where they're coming from. And that's the reason we need to make sure that we are staying as communicative as possible. But we don't want to be annoying, and the worst thing you can do is constantly be calling and just say, hey, I'm just calling to follow up. Anything change? You ready to make a move? Nobody wants to hear that. It's annoying. So what do? Well, the first thing you can do is consider how and when we can add some value to their lives instead of just following up. A great way to do that is to offer them properties that are not in the MLS. Off-market listings, pocket listings, whatever you want to call them. Figure out how to get some and then use that as a little bit of bait to either get someone on the phone again who's ghosting you, or to have more of a meaningful conversation when you are able to get them on the phone and reach out. With our company, what we do is we take advantage of a system called Raven. You've probably heard me mention it before if you've listened to any number of the videos I produce. Raven is a pretty cool tool, and it also takes advantage of the fact that our team is part of the EXP brokerage, which is technically one brokerage that is international. So one of the clear cooperation rules is that you can share off-market listings with your brokerage, but you cannot market it to the public. Well, the cool thing is we've got a huge presence internationally. We've got a huge presence nationally. We've got a huge presence here in California. And more importantly, in our market, there are a lot of EXP agents. So we can use this service, which is kind of like an off-market MLS of its own, to share with other agents that are part of our brokerage. So we always have either coming soon, not to be listed at all, or some variety of maybe a make me move type of seller who doesn't really have the motivation right now, but maybe with the right price would move. There's all types of these kind of properties listed within the Raven system. So for what we have is we can go ahead and use that system. But what if you don't have Raven? Well, there's other ways you can go about finding properties. There are a ton of expireds and for sale by owners that are not on the MLS anymore, but they once were. You can use those and go hunting for properties for this buyer. You can tell them you're going to do that. Say, listen, I will put in the work if you want. Are you serious enough to have me target this area with this type of property within this period of time? Because I will do it for you. So there's different ways you can get them. Even if you don't have that sort of work ethic or desire to make the calls or send the letters or do what it takes to find those types of properties, you can always network with your in-office agents. Maybe you don't have a huge team, but you can talk to them, see what they've got coming up. And you can use Facebook groups that have fallen a little bit out of common use because of clear cooperation, but believe it or not, they're still out there and people are still just doing what they want to do, sharing properties and trying to get things done. So one way or another, you can find off-market properties and you can offer them to people, and that's something of value that you can share with them. Another thing you can do is Be aware of what you're doing as far as the automatic property notifications that you're sending out to them, whether it's on your own website or through the MLS that you set them up on, and check it out and use that as an excuse to send them a message or make a phone call and be like, hey, I know I sent you this property over here on 123 Main Street. That one doesn't have a pool, obviously, and I know you said you want one. For some reason, the settings got mixed up there and it slipped through anyways. Disregard that. How's it going? And now you're in a conversation again, right? So, you can use the fact that you are actually paying attention and monitoring the properties that your system is sending them automatically and say, hey, I don't know if this one made it into your search, but I was just looking on my own. It made me thought of you. What do you think about this? Or that could be a phone call instead of a message as well. Being aware of the properties that are going to them and then augmenting that messaging with your own is another good way to stay in front of them without being annoying. A huge one is what we do regularly, and that is to maintain client events. We do them quarterly at our company. And the great thing about the client events, sure, they're fun. Usually there's some food and alcohol involved, so they're an enjoyable time with not only your clients and past clients and prospects, but also your sphere of influence, maybe even family members. That's all great. But even if nobody shows up to the event, that is a quarterly reason to call someone, not talk about real estate, not say I'm just following up, not say anything about their home search, their timing, or any of that, and just offer something for free. Doing something nice, inviting them to a party. Sure, the conversation will likely move towards real estate, but that's not the reason you're calling, and you're not being annoying. It's important. You're doing something really cool, and everybody likes to be invited to stuff, even if they don't want to go. It's still just a nice gesture to be invited to an event where they can come out and get some free food or some free drinks or some free entertainment. We do all of the above. We just wrapped up a big summer barbecue. We actually had the In-N-Out food truck that was like an 18-wheeler. The thing was gigantic. We've rented out a whole movie theater and let people watch a movie on us. And then, of course, we have a little fun before and after the movie itself. So there's lots of different ways to do things that are cool for your clients. And if you're not part of a big team like we are, that also comes with a big budget to put on events like that. You could do something small in a bar or at a restaurant, not even make it, known to the establishment, and just have a meetup there and say, hey, we're just going to do something real small. It'd be great to see you. I'm just pulling together some people that have helped, buy homes in the past. Maybe you guys can have some synergy too, make some friends. If that real small number is 5 people, cool. You told them it was going to be real small. If it's 10, that's cool. If it's 50, you get blown up and you didn't realize it. That's still cool. They could think that you think that's small. You want to, under-promise and over-deliver in all cases. So saying we're doing something small, intimate, just a little meetup is a great way to do your first bit of client events so that can grow down the road. Finally, you got to use video. Video is where it's at these days. Obviously, I'm taking the time to make these videos. You should do the same thing. You can use a system like BombBomb or some of the ripoffs that are free to send video messages. You don't even need BombBomb. You could just send a video message from your phone and send it directly out. You'll miss out on some analytics and other things like that. But video messages directly to clients instead of follow-ups are a great way to do it. And then on the same thought process of video, you should be creating some sort of helpful content to all of your clients, past clients, sphere of influence, prospects, people that you're trying to work with in the future, and everything in between, giving them helpful information, whether that's market updates, whether that's keying in on various topics. Get a regular cadence together every week, every other week, every month, quarterly. The more frequently, the better, to be honest with you. But whatever you can do, get in where you fit in and start putting out content, because adding these people with long-term follow-up needed into that system as well is going to fill in some of the gaps and make sure that you stay familiar and friendly and they're aware of you in between the times that you're actually talking on the phone, sending a text message, or sending an email out. So this is helpful for you and your long-term buyer follow-up. It's a tricky game we play, trying to stay in front of them and regularly in communication with them without being annoying because of their specific timelines. But you can figure it out, and some of these tools, I hope, will help you do that. We're going to move on to the topic of Google Local Services ads. We had some people with experience on the mastermind this morning talk about an initial, period of time where it was just all crap leads. It was just nothing but vendors calling all the time. It was happening frequently. The flow was high, but the quality was low. And then they had some things that they had to work out. They pretty much ran into some glitches with Google, and they kind of blackballed them for a bit. They had to retool everything. And after doing that, the lead flow was a fraction of what it was. There was hardly any leads actually coming in, but the quality went way up. These people were very close to or at the bottom of the funnel instead of way up high where it's going to be a year or so, and you're going to have to use the last topic we just talked about, which is this long-term buyer follow-up. I don't have personal experience with Google Local Services ad, and I've only used Google My Business a little bit, but I'm working from what we learned, and that's the reason I attend these masterminds all the time, is because I love hearing from other people's experience to help shortcut my way as I go in the business. What can you do to improve your situation? Well, on your Google My Business page, you want to get as many positive reviews as possible. Treat it like Zillow. And in another way, kind of treat it like a social media site. It is neither of those. Google Local Services and Google My Business is basically a place where it's kind of like a modern day version of the old white pages where it's just a listing of businesses, but it's digital. So there's photos, there's video, communication, there's ways that you can respond to comments to people on there. So the more photos and images that you can put on there, the more updating you can do to your page, the better off you're going to be, and it's going to influence any sort of local services ads you're doing as well. One last tip before we wrap this topic up is to make sure you are super responsive to these leads. You've got to reply to these leads immediately. You will be rated and ranked by Google accordingly. Equally as important is that it will also impact the conversion numbers that you find when you're actually talking to these people. So that's all we got for today. Just a deep dive into long-term buyer lead follow-up, a brief talk about Google Local Service ads and Google My Business in general. I hope this is helpful for you. And as I always say, I hope you found something you can implement in your business today. Not just fill your head full of knowledge, but give you steps you can use to implement and go out and crush the day. Feel free to shoot me a message here, and I'll talk to you soon.